Graydon House and Harper Audio present The Bitter and Sweet of Cherry Season, a novel by Molly Fader. Performed by Nancy Peterson. A note before we begin. For a few recipes, including chocolate cherry brioche and spicy cherry chutney, don't forget to download the accompanying enhancement PDF from your audiobook provider, or go directly to www.harpercollins.com/audio/The Bitter and Sweet of Cherry Season. 1. Hope. Night in northern Michigan was no joke. Hope had never seen a dark so dark. It had heft and dimension, like she was driving right into an abyss. She thought about waking up Tink in the back to show her, but the girl had finally fallen asleep and she needed the rest. And Hope needed a break. Who knew traveling with a completely silent, angry, and traumatized 10-year-old could be so exhausting? Hope's phone had died when she got off the highway about 20 minutes ago. In those last few minutes of battery, she had tried to memorize the directions. Left on Murray Street. Slight right onto County Road 72. Your destination is 5 miles on the right. But County Road 72 wasn't well marked, and now she feared she was lost. Well, for sure she was lost. In the grand scheme of things, she was totally off the map. But she was clinging to the one ratty thread of hope she had left. And then, just as that tiny bit of thread started to slip through her fingers, from the murk emerged a blue sign. County Road 72. The road took a long arcing right into the dark, and she unrolled her window, trying to keep herself awake. Adrenaline and gas station coffee could only do so much against 2 sleepless nights. Her yawn was so wide, it split her lip. Again. Copper-tasting blood pooled in her mouth. Shit, she breathed, and pressed the last of the napkins against her mouth. She was even out of napkins. In the back, Tink woke up. Hope heard the change in her breathing, the sudden gasp, like she was waking up from a nightmare. Or into one. Hard to say. "Hey," Hope said, looking over her shoulder into the shadows of the back seat. Her daughter's pale face slid into the space between the driver and passenger seats like a moon. "We're almost there." Hope sounded like they were about to drive up to the gates of Disney World. Tink rubbed her eyes. "Did you see the stars?" Hope's voice climbed into that range she'd recently developed, dementedly cheerful, Stepford Mom on helium. She winced at the sound of it. That wasn't her. It wasn't how she talked to Tink. And yet she couldn't tune her voice back to normal. "There are so many of them. I don't think I've ever seen so many stars." Tink ducked her head to look out the windshield, and then turned to cock her head at an angle so she could look out the passenger windows. They'd gone to an exhibit about the constellations at the Science Center a year ago, and Tink still talked about it, pointing up at Sirius like she'd discovered it herself. "Aren't those the Pleiades?" The constellation was called the Pleiades, but Hope got the name wrong on purpose, hoping for a snotty-toned correction from her miniature astronomer, or at least a throat-clearing scoff. But no. "Sooner or later, you're going to talk to me," she said. "You're going to open that mouth, and all the words you haven't said all day are going to come pouring out." Silence. "Do you want to ask me questions about where we're going?" They were, after all, heading deep into northern Michigan to a place she and Tink had never been, that Hope had never told her about until today. Tink rubbed her eyes again.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?